The night was cold in Seattle, colder than usual. Rain poured down, tapping on every roof, every street light, and every heart that passed by without caring. Inside a small cafe at the corner of Pine Street, Emma Collins was finishing her last shift of the day. She was tired, not just the kind of tired you feel in your body, but the kind that lives deep in your bones. Her feet ached, her hands were red from washing dishes, and her mind kept thinking about the rent she still hadn't paid. Emma was in her early 30s. She lived alone in a small apartment on the city's edge. Her life wasn't easy, but she had something most people didn't: kindness. She believed that no matter how hard life got, you should never stop being kind. As she wiped down the counter, the bell above the cafe door jingled softly, but no one entered. She looked outside through the foggy window. That's when she saw him. A man sat on the sidewalk across the street, his clothes soaked through, his head bent low. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. People were walking past him, umbrellas in hand, eyes straight ahead, pretending he wasn't there. Emma's heart tightened. She hesitated for a moment, thinking, it's late, I should just go home. But something about that man, something in the way he sat completely still, like he had given up on the world, made her stop. She turned off the lights, grabbed a small paper bag, and filled it with soup, bread, and a hot cup of coffee. Then she put on her coat and stepped out into the rain. When she reached him, he didn't even look up. His hands were shaking as he held a torn backpack close to his chest. "Hey," she said softly, kneeling down beside him. He looked up, startled, his eyes filled with surprise and shame. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "I brought you something to eat," she said, placing the bag beside him. He looked at it but didn't move. "I'm fine," he muttered. Emma smiled gently. "You don't look fine." For a moment, they both stayed silent. The rain fell harder, hitting the pavement, echoing in the dark street. Finally, the man sighed and took the bag. When he opened it, the smell of warm soup made his eyes water. He whispered, "Why are you doing this?" Emma shrugged lightly. "Because you look like you need it." He looked at her for a long time as if he couldn't understand why a stranger would care. Then he said, almost to himself, "Nobody's done something like this for me, in a long time." She smiled. "Then maybe it's about time someone did." They sat quietly for a few minutes while he ate. The cafe lights glowed softly behind them, and for a moment, the rainy street didn't feel so cold. When he finished, he stood up and said, "Thank you." "You didn't have to." Emma shook her head. "I know. But I wanted to." He gave a small smile. "You have no idea how much this means. I lost my job 2 months ago. My wife left. I've been trying to find work, but no one gives a man like me a chance anymore." Emma felt a sharp ache in her chest. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. He nodded. "Don't be. Life just happens." He looked at her again, his eyes softer now. "What's your name?" "Emma," she said. He smiled faintly. "Emma. I won't forget that." She laughed softly. "You don't have to remember me. Just promise me one thing: when life gets better, help someone else. Pass it on." He looked at her as if those words meant more than she knew. "I promise," he said. "And Emma, thank you. Really." He started walking away into the dark, the rain falling around him. Emma watched him go, her heart both heavy and warm. She didn't even know his name. When she turned back toward the cafe, she noticed something lying on the ground: a small, silver keychain with the letters DP engraved on it. She picked it up, thinking she'd give it back if she ever saw him again. But she never did. Weeks passed. The keychain stayed in her drawer, forgotten among old bills and coffee receipts. Every now and then, she'd see a man on the street and wonder if it was him. She hoped he had found a job, a place to sleep, maybe someone to care for him. But life moved on, as it always did. One night, as Emma walked home under the same rainy sky, she thought about that evening. How a simple act, a meal, a kind word had changed something inside her. She didn't know what it was, but it felt important, like the universe had noticed. She smiled to herself and whispered, "Maybe kindness really does come back." The screen fades to black, and a soft narrator's voice says, "That rainy night, Emma thought she was helping a stranger. But in truth, she was helping her own destiny. Because that man, the one she saved from the rain, would return years later and change her life forever." Years passed after that rainy night in Seattle. For Emma Collins, life continued its quiet, unrelenting march forward. The cafe where she had worked finally closed down. The owner had retired, and the small, cozy place she had once called her second home disappeared behind a for-lease sign. Emma had no family nearby. Her parents lived across the country, and her younger sister had moved to another city for a job. That left Emma alone, facing the daily grind and the endless bills of life. She worked multiple small jobs just to keep her apartment. Some nights, she cleaned offices until her back ached. Other days, she delivered packages, her hands raw from carrying heavy boxes. She never complained. Her pride kept her going. Yet, no matter how hard she worked, life never seemed to give her a break. Rent went up. Bills piled up. Friends came and went. Loneliness became a quiet companion, always sitting in the corner of her small apartment. Emma had a small routine to keep herself going. Each morning, she walked to the nearest grocery store to buy a loaf of bread. At the cafe across the street, she ordered a cup of coffee and smiled at the barista, even though she was tired and empty inside. She knew life could be cruel, but she believed it could also be kind. She never lost hope that small gestures of kindness could matter, that one day, life would return the favor. And sometimes, it did feel like that. A stranger would smile at her, a coworker would thank her for helping, or a neighbor would return a small favor. These little moments became her quiet fuel, tiny sparks that kept her heart alive. But there were darker days. Days when Emma sat on the floor of her tiny apartment, staring at unpaid bills. The lights were dim, and rain tapped on her window just like that night years ago. She whispered into the quiet, "I'm just tired of fighting." Her stomach was empty, but she refused to feel sorry for herself. She refused to give up. Instead, she would remind herself of that night, the night she had helped a stranger without expecting anything in return. Even if she never saw him again, even if life had not rewarded her yet, she had done something good. And that, she thought, mattered more than anything. Emma often thought about him. She didn't know his name, didn't know where he had gone, but she remembered the look in his eyes, the mixture of pain, pride, and hope. She wondered if he had managed to survive, to get back on his feet. Sometimes she imagined him sitting somewhere safe, smiling, because of the meal and warmth she had given him. One particularly hard evening, Emma returned from a long night at work to find an envelope slipped under her door. She picked it up, her fingers trembling. The paper felt heavier than normal. She opened it and saw a notice: eviction. Her apartment, her small sanctuary, was being taken away. The words hit her like a punch in the chest. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She folded the paper, placed it on the table, and sat quietly. The rain outside mirrored her emotions, relentless, unstoppable, and cold. She thought about the stranger from that rainy night. If only life could give her back something the way she had given that man warmth and food. If only her kindness could return to her now. Emma spent the next few days in a haze. She applied for every job she could find: cashier, cleaner, office assistant, anything. But nothing seemed to fit. The city was crowded, and opportunities were rare. Each rejection felt heavier than the last. Yet, she never gave up. She kept going to the small cafe each morning, kept smiling at strangers, kept helping anyone she could. Because deep down, she believed that kindness was a circle, that what she gave would come back, eventually. And sometimes, in quiet moments, she caught herself thinking, maybe that man would come back. Maybe one day, she would see him again. She laughed quietly at the thought, thinking it was foolish. Yet, even in the darkest moments, a tiny spark of hope lived inside her heart. One night, as Emma walked home from a long shift, she looked up at the sky. The clouds were heavy, and the rain had stopped, leaving the streets wet and reflective. She paused, taking in the quiet, empty streets. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "I wonder if he ever remembers that night, if he ever thinks of me." Little did she know, somewhere across the city, fate was quietly working behind the scenes. The man she had helped was alive, thriving, and thinking of her, too. Emma didn't know it yet, but her life was about to change in ways she never imagined. The kindness she had given freely, without expectation, was about to return to her in a way far greater than she could have dreamed. She walked the last block to her apartment, her steps slow but determined. Even in the darkness, even in the struggle, Emma still believed in hope. She didn't know when, she didn't know how, but she believed that someday, life would repay her. And in that belief, she found strength. It had been almost 5 years since that rainy night in Seattle, the night when Emma Collins had helped a stranger with nothing but a warm meal and a kind heart. Life had been hard, sometimes unbearably so, but she had survived. Somehow, through long shifts, empty pockets, and nights of loneliness, she had survived. One gray afternoon, Emma was sitting at a small cafe, sipping a lukewarm cup of coffee. Her hands trembled slightly, not from the cold, but from worry. Bills stacked up beside her, a harsh reminder that her struggle was far from over. Then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It was an unknown number. Emma hesitated. Most calls from unknown numbers were either sales or bad news. But something made her answer. "Hello," she said cautiously. A calm, deep voice spoke on the other side. "Miss Collins. This is regarding a job opportunity. Someone personally recommended you." Emma blinked. I didn't apply anywhere recently." The voice chuckled softly. "That's okay. Please come in for an interview. We believe you are perfect for the position." Emma was confused. Who would recommend her? And why? But something in the voice, polite, confident, almost familiar, made her feel a spark of hope. The next morning, Emma walked to the address the caller had given her. Her shoes splashed in the puddles along the way. The building was tall and elegant, completely unlike the small offices she had cleaned for years. A polished receptionist smiled at her and handed her a visitor badge. "Please wait here," the receptionist said, then nodded politely. Emma's heart pounded in her chest. She had never felt so out of place, yet so curious. Her fingers fidgeted with her coat, and she looked around at the sleek furniture, shiny floors, and people walking past in crisp suits. After a few minutes, a man appeared. He was tall, confident, and had a kind but serious expression. Emma froze. Her mind raced. There was something familiar about him, something she couldn't place. The man stopped a few feet away and smiled softly. His eyes were gentle, yet piercing, as if he could see straight into her soul. "Emma Collins?" he asked. "Yes," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. He extended his hand. "I'm Daniel Parker." Emma blinked. The name didn't mean anything to her. But the face was familiar. Her heart skipped a beat. She tried to remember. Then it hit her. It was him. The man she had helped on that rainy night years ago. The one she had never expected to see again. Daniel smiled, almost shyly. I told you I would never forget you. Emma's mouth went dry. She didn't know what to say. I I remember you, she whispered. Daniel nodded. I've never stopped thinking about that night. You helped me when I had nothing. You gave me hope when I had lost it all. I promised myself that if I ever got the chance, I would find you and repay your kindness. Tears welled in Emma's eyes. She had never expected to see him again, and yet here he was standing in front of her, calm, confident, and successful. Daniel explained further. After that rainy night, he had worked tirelessly to rebuild his life. He had started small, taking any job he could find. Over time, he had saved enough, built his skills, and started his own company, Bright Future Industries. And throughout it all, he remembered her kindness, the warmth she had given him without expecting anything in return. I never forgot, he said again, his voice soft but firm. And now, I want to give you an opportunity, a real chance to live the life you deserve. Emma couldn't speak. She looked at him, tears streaming down her face. She wanted to laugh, cry, scream, and whisper thank you all at once. Daniel continued, I have a position in my company for you. Not just a job, but a chance to be part of something bigger. You'll have security, support, and a place where your kindness and hard work can truly shine. Emma's hands shook. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Daniel said, smiling warmly. Just come work with me. Let me repay a little of the kindness you gave me that night. For the first time in years, Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. It wasn't just about money or a job, it was about being seen. Being appreciated. Being recognized for her heart and her effort, not just her work. She nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her years of struggle start to lift. Daniel extended his hand again, this time inviting her into a new chapter of her life. Emma took a deep breath, smiled through her tears, and stepped forward. The rain outside had stopped, leaving the city streets shiny and bright, a reflection of the hope now shining inside her. As she walked toward the building, she whispered softly to herself. Maybe kindness really does come back, in ways you can never imagine. Emma Collins could hardly believe her eyes. She had walked into Bright Future Industries, expecting nothing, and now she stood face to face with the man she had helped on a rainy night so many years ago. Daniel Parker looked at her with a calm confidence, but his eyes held warmth and gratitude that made her heart ache. After the initial shock faded, Daniel invited her to sit in his office. The room was large and bright, with tall windows that overlooked the city. Emma felt out of place among the polished furniture and quiet hum of activity, yet she could not stop staring at the man who had changed her life without even realizing it. Emma, Daniel began, his voice steady, I want to tell you the full story. You deserve to know everything. Emma nodded, her hands folded nervously in her lap. Years ago, Daniel continued, I had nothing. I lost my job, my home, and almost my hope. I was ready to give up on life. Then, you came along. Emma felt her throat tighten. I just wanted to help, she whispered. Daniel smiled softly. And that small act, changed everything for me. That night, when you gave me food and warmth, I realized someone cared. Someone believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. That tiny spark kept me going. He paused for a moment, letting the words sink in. Emma could feel tears welling up, but she blinked to keep them back. I promised myself, Daniel continued, that if I ever became successful, I would find the person who saved me that night. And I would give back, even a little, what she gave me without expecting anything. Emma's hands shook slightly. She had never imagined that her small gesture would mean so much. All those nights of struggle, all those hours of work, seemed to have led to this moment. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. Emma, I built this company, Bright Future Industries, from nothing. I wanted it to be a place where people could succeed, where kindness and hard work mattered. And now, I want you to be part of it. Not just as an employee, but as someone I trust and respect. Emma's heart raced. She had survived years of struggle, loneliness, and uncertainty. She had never asked for help, never expected anything in return. And now, here was the opportunity of a lifetime, offered by the very man whose life she had touched without even knowing it. You don't understand, Emma said softly. I've never had anything like this. I've been surviving, just getting by. I don't know how to accept something like this. Daniel shook his head gently. Emma, you deserve it. You've spent your life helping others, even when you had nothing yourself. You've shown kindness, patience, and courage. It's time the world sees that and rewards it. Let me give you what you deserve. He handed her a small folder. Inside were details of the job, a comfortable salary, and a plan to include her in one of his charitable projects, a program to help struggling women and families get back on their feet. Emma could barely breathe. Tears streamed down her face, but this time they were tears of hope and relief. She had survived so long thinking that life might never turn in her favor. And now, it had. Daniel smiled at her, his eyes softening. Emma, this isn't just about me repaying a debt. It's about the future. The world needs people like you. People who care, who give without expecting anything. You inspired me then, and I want you to inspire others now. Emma's voice trembled. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything, Daniel said gently. Just come with me and let's make a difference together. For the first time in years, Emma felt light. The heavy burden she had carried, worry, loneliness, endless struggle, began to lift. It was as if a door had opened, revealing a path she never knew existed. She smiled through her tears. I'd like that. I want to help, just like you said. Daniel reached out and shook her hand, then placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Welcome to Bright Future Industries, Emma. Welcome to your new beginning. Emma looked out the office window at the city below. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the streetlights. It was a quiet night, but it felt full of promise. She realized that the kindness she had given years ago had returned in the most extraordinary way through hope, opportunity, and human connection. As she left the office that night, Emma felt a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. She was no longer just surviving. She was living. And she was ready to pay forward the kindness that had once saved a man she didn't even know would become her savior. The quiet, lonely years of struggle were over. Emma's life had been touched by fate, guided by her own goodness, and illuminated by a simple truth: kindness always finds its way back. And as she walked home under the stars, she whispered to herself, sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can change someone's life, and maybe even your own. Months passed since Emma Collins joined Bright Future Industries. Her life had changed in ways she could never have imagined. She no longer woke up worrying about bills or scrambling for survival. Instead, she found purpose, stability, and joy in helping others, just as she had once helped a stranger on a rainy night years ago. Emma's favorite part of her new job was managing one of Daniel Parker's charitable projects. The program provided meals, shelter, and opportunities for struggling women and families, people who had little hope and nowhere else to turn. Each day, Emma reminded herself of the impact a single act of kindness could have, and she worked tirelessly to make sure others felt the warmth she had once given Daniel. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Emma was walking home from the charity office. The streets glistened from a recent rain, and the air smelled fresh and clean. Her steps slowed when she noticed a young boy sitting on a curb, hugging his knees and shivering. His clothes were worn, and his eyes were full of fear and sadness, a reflection of someone who had nowhere to go. Emma felt her heart tighten. She knelt down beside him, pulling her coat closer around her shoulders. "Hey," she said softly. "Are you okay?" The boy looked up, startled, as if he hadn't expected anyone to care. "I. I'm hungry," he whispered. Emma smiled warmly. She reached into her bag and handed him a small meal, just like she had done so many years ago for a stranger in the rain. "Here," she said. "Eat this. You're not alone." The boy's eyes widened. For a moment, he just stared at her, unsure if she was real. Then, slowly, a small smile appeared on his face. Emma's heart swelled. She had never thought of herself as a hero, but she realized that what she did didn't need a title. Small acts of kindness could change a life, sometimes even more than we ever imagine. As she walked home that night, Emma reflected on her journey. From the days of struggle, loneliness, and endless worry, she had come to a place of hope, love, and purpose. And it was all because of one rainy night, one small decision to help someone in need without expecting anything in return. When she reached her apartment, Daniel was waiting. He smiled at her, seeing the glow in her eyes. "You did good today," he said quietly. Emma laughed softly. "It's nothing. Just helping someone." Daniel shook his head. "It's everything. That's what this world needs, people like you." She looked at him, remembering the first day they had met again, and whispered, "I guess kindness really does come back." Daniel smiled warmly. "It always does. And now, you're giving it back to others, just like you gave it to me." Together, they looked out over the city. The streets were quiet, but Emma could feel life buzzing with possibilities. She thought about the young boy she had fed, the women she helped through the charity program, and all the lives that would be touched by small acts of love and care. Emma understood something now: life wasn't just about survival. It was about connection, compassion, and making a difference wherever possible. One small choice, one act of kindness, could create ripples that changed the world in ways you could never predict. As she lay in bed that night, Emma held the silver keychain she had found years ago, the one Daniel had left behind after the first rainy night. She smiled to herself, thinking about how far they had come. That tiny object had been a symbol of hope, a reminder that small gestures mattered. And somewhere deep inside, Emma knew that this was just the beginning. Life would continue to challenge her, but now she had something far greater than she ever had before: purpose, love, and the proof that kindness always finds its way back. The next morning, Emma arrived at the charity center, ready to start her day. She saw the boy from the night before, now smiling as he shared his meal with another child. Around them were families slowly finding hope and warmth, all because of the ripple effect of kindness that had started long ago. Emma felt tears prick her eyes, but this time, they were tears of joy. She realized that life had come full circle. The woman who had once been lonely, struggling, and unsure of her place in the world had become a source of hope and light for others. And as she looked up at the clear morning sky, she whispered softly, almost to herself, "Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can echo forever. Sometimes, it can change everything." Emma smiled, knowing that no matter what challenges came next, she would continue to give, continue to care, and continue to believe in the quiet power of kindness. Because she had learned the greatest truth of all: giving freely, without expectation, could create miracles that last a lifetime.